Hello Bloomington, I'm Mayor Tim Busse, and this is the Council Minute for the week of April 12th. This week, the City Council opened our meeting, continued all of the items on the agenda to a future meeting date, and adjourned. We did this because it seemed like the meeting agenda items were inconsequential on Monday night compared to the larger issues going on around us. I am deeply saddened and more than a little disheartened that Daunte Wright, a young black man, died at the hands of a police officer in Brooklyn Center on Sunday. I'm sure most of you have seen the video by now, or if you haven't, you know the story, so I don't need to repeat the details here. I do, however, want to spend my time with you today talking about why it matters for us here in the city of Bloomington, and why we have committed ourselves to advancing the work of racial equity, inclusion, and diversity in the City of Bloomington organization and throughout our community. Let me start by going back a few years to 2013. That's when the city joined with Hennepin County in the Joint Community Police Partnership Program, or the JCPP. The JCPP focuses on building trusting relationships between police and the communities they serve, especially communities of color and new Americans. Since joining the JCPP, we have had a Hennepin County staff person embedded in the Bloomington Police Department as a community liaison. The community liaison works with a group of community members called the Multicultural Advisory Committee to increase community awareness of policing and to increase police officer awareness of the unique cultures that exist here within Bloomington. The Multicultural Advisory Committee finds opportunities to bring police officers and residents together to get to know each other, to provide opportunities for positive interactions, and to build trust. I am grateful for the good work that they do. I'm also grateful for the ongoing work within the Bloomington PD on the subject of race and equity. And I am most grateful for the outstanding work done by the men and women of the Bloomington Police Department and the culture and expectation of excellence and professionalism that is the foundation of everything they do. While they have done and continue to do great work, I know the members of our police department would agree they still have work to do. In 2016, the City Council adopted a strategic plan that included inclusion and equity as one of the core pillars of the plan. The Council and staff recognized that the city needs to change with the community. Back in 2016, we focused on three key goals. First, we acknowledged the need to diversify the volunteer boards and commissions that advise the City Council. These commissions are an important voice in the community in our policy development process, and it's important that the residents on our commissions are a good reflection of our entire community. Second, and similarly, we said how important it was to diversify our workforce. In a community where nearly 30% of our residents are BIPOC, that's Black, Indigenous, and people of color, it was concerning that only about 7% of our employees identify as BIPOC. It's important that residents see themselves reflected in the city staff that serves them, and it's important that our staff has the cultural competence to serve the many needs within this community. Third, we wanted to establish a process to evaluate our city services, programs, and our policies through the lens of equity. This means that we're considering the impact of our policies and practices on all members of our community, especially those who have been traditionally underrepresented and those who have been the subject of systemic and institutional racism. While we have made progress on all of these initial goals, I know that the City Council and the staff would agree we still have work to do. In 2019, we took another significant step forward when we decided to create the position of Racial Equity Coordinator to have a consistent and dedicated effort from City Hall to make sure that equity is a core consideration in everything that we do. I will tell you, I think this is one of the best investments that the City Council has ever made. Look, elected officials have an obligation. I would go so far as to say we have a moral obligation to ensure that city services are accessible, fair, and equitable to everyone in this community. I'm not going to go through the information here, but there is more than ample evidence that generations in this country have not had access to fair and equitable services from their government. There are many who would say that our local government here in Bloomington doesn't perpetuate these historical disparities. I've had people tell me that there's no such thing as racism in Bloomington, and there never has been. Let me offer just one example to demonstrate just how wrong that is. We've recently discovered that more than 500 parcels in Bloomington have racially restrictive language attached to the property deeds. That means that the official legal record for more than 500 parcels says that anybody who isn't white cannot own that property. This isn't the Jim Crow South. It's right here in Bloomington. Now, racial covenants are illegal and have been for some time, but the fact is that we have remnants of institutional racism all around us. We have to identify it, call it what it is, and we have to dig it out, root and stem. I feel strongly about this, but it's clear that others do as well. The corporate community in the Twin Cities has made racial equity a top priority. Greater MSP, the Itasca Project, the Minneapolis Regional Chamber of Commerce, all of them are focused on issues that will attract more workers to the region and ensuring that the Twin Cities is addressing some of the worst disparities in the country between white people and people of color. It is an economic imperative for the entire Twin Cities region that we address issues that continue to exacerbate inequities and disparities. Here in Bloomington, within the past 6 months, we've taken even bolder steps forward. The City Council adopted a racial equity business plan at the end of 2020. Earlier this year, we declared racism to be a public health crisis. City staff has formed racial equity action teams in each of our departments, and just last month, we kicked off the racial equity strategic planning process with a group of nearly 24 community representatives working together to define how we are going to achieve our goals. Now, despite what I think is steady progress, we have to be honest about where we are. We have a lot of work to do. We have a lot of work to do. The world is watching Minnesota right now. With the trial of Derek Chauvin about to wrap up and now the police officer killing of Daunte Wright, we are once again center stage for really hard conversations about race, equity, and unity. The only way we are going to come out of this as a better community, a better society, is by committing to stay engaged in the really hard work of recognizing how our systems and institutions continue to perpetuate inequities. By committing to stay engaged with each other to build trusting relationships that are durable in times of crisis, and to commit to a future that is different than our past. Well, that's a wrap on this week's Council Minute. I hope to see you again next week. Until then, stay safe, Bloomington.